Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about the Heirloom Seed Sanctuary, which was a ministry that the congregation ran for 20 years. It's a completed ministry, but I just want to be clear that I'm talking to you as the sister's historian and archivist, and not as someone with an ecological or horticultural background, and I wasn't directly involved with the ministry, though I was at the Mother House while it was an active ministry. So when we get to question period, I'll try to answer your questions as best I can, but I may not have all the answers. So just be a little patient with me. So just to give you some background, at the congregation's chapter in 1994, there arose a focus on consciousness for the environment and care of creation. Under the direction of Sister Jeanette Filthau, this focus was turned into concrete action in the spring of 1997, when Sister Jeanette and a small group of sisters of Providence started an organic vegetable garden. The Mother House has about 30 acres in the middle of Kingston, basically, so it was a perfect spot for an organic garden. So on June 5th, 1997, they began their new garden with a planting ritual of singing, reading of scriptures, and blessing of the earth before they planted their new seeds and plants. But little did they know that they were also planting the seeds of a new ministry that would grow out of their small organic garden. So in planning and creating this garden, the sisters met organic farmers Carol and Robert Mook of Foxfire Farm, which is in Napanee, which is close to Kingston. And they had a collection of heirloom seeds. So the Mooks provided the sisters with open pollinated plants and seeds for their new garden, and with advice on the importance of saving seeds and how to do it. So the sisters saved seed from their new garden to plant the next year. And in that first year, they learned the importance of open pollinated seeds for genetic diversity, and that food sustainability begins with the seeds. So those first sister gardeners, with a few interested associates, formed an ecology and environment committee at the end of that summer. And the committee chose its mandate as consciousness raising through education, witnessing, being resources, and personal communal conversion. In 1998, the Ecology and Environment Committee created a larger organic garden tended by a political refugee from El Salvador, and the produce from that garden was shared with the refugee family, local food banks, and meal programs, and with the sisters. So in 1998, there was a large renovation project at the Mother House where they were renovating the infirmary wing, and they took out all the old windows and put in new windows. So there was a question of what to do with the old windows, and that inspired a dream of a greenhouse, which would allow the gardeners to start their seeds earlier. So starting that fall, the maintenance staff of the Mother House designed and built a greenhouse extending off the garage, reusing the old windows from the Marion wing. So you can see some photos of the construction. So the Mooks, who they were the ones that had provided the seeds, they were aging, as we all tend to do, and they were finding their farm to be too much work. So in early 1999, they offered to manage the new greenhouse and create larger gardens on the property. The first event held together by the Mooks and the Ecology Committee was a tour of the greenhouse for Earth Day in April 1999, which included a fresh lettuce tasting from the greenhouse garden. And that fall, the root cellar was restored. It was an old root cellar on the property, because I didn't explain that the Mother House property was originally farmland, sort of put together in the 1850s, and the sisters purchased the property in 1930. So the root cellar was original. So they restored the root cellar and used it for storing seed potatoes. In the fall of 1999, the leadership team determined a vision for the future of the garden's greenhouse project that included opening up more organic gardens, becoming a seed sanctuary, and becoming an education center for organic gardening with heirloom seeds. So this was the real start of the Heirloom Seed Sanctuary. A temporary seed sanctuary was created in the garage maintenance shop while they looked for a permanent, larger location on the Mother House property. In spring 2001, the old barn on the Mother House property was restored and renovated to create a beautiful home for the seed sanctuary and workshop space. and continued to serve that function until 2019. So the Heirloom Seed Sanctuary had a one-of-a-kind collection of over 300 different varieties of locally adapted open pollinated seeds, mostly vegetables. So they had almost 100 tomato varieties, 68 varieties of beans, as well as cucumbers, melons, radishes, onions, peppers, and a few flowers, which were included to encourage pollinators. It was a living collection, so a portion of the collection was grown out each year specifically to save seed. So the intention of the garden wasn't to plant things for food, it was to plant things to save seed, which is sort of a different way of thinking. Some of the extra produce was used for food, but that wasn't the goal of the seed sanctuary. The seed sanctuary defined the term heirloom as any seed that has been or is worthy of being passed down for generations. So the MOOCs continued to run the seed sanctuary while working with the sisters and leading outreach activities. In 2008, the Heirloom Seed Sanctuary received the Canadian Environmental Silver Award in the Sustainable Living category. And the MOOCs were getting older, and so they wished to retire. And the sisters wanted to carry on the ministry. So in March 2008, they hired Kate Henderson as a seed saver and gardener, and she was mentored by the MOOCs for that growing season. And she took over at the end of 2008 a full responsibility for the seed sanctuary and the education and outreach programs. So education was always an important component of the seed sanctuary ministry. It started in early 2000 when 70 participants attended the first ecological gardening workshop in January 2000, held on the Mother House grounds. A number of those workshop attendees offered to volunteer in the garden. And since those first volunteers in 2000, volunteers were involved with the Heirloom Seed Sanctuary in various capacities, right up until the end of its last growing season in 2018. So volunteers were always key. Monthly seed saving workshops were held from 2005 to 2015. In 2015, webinars were created to replace the live workshops and made available on YouTube, and you can still find those today. There's a link on our website. Beginning in 2000, Heirloom Seed Sanctuary staff participated in many external local events, different fall fairs, different local things. They were also instrumental in helping to organize the annual Seedy Saturday in Kingston from 2010 to 2018, and the Sisters of Providence sponsored the event during that time. So just in case you don't know, Seedy Saturdays are local community events that encourage the use of open pollinated and heritage seeds, enabling a local seed exchange and educating the public about seed saving and environmentally responsible gardening practices. The Seed Sanctuary also annually hired paid summer interns for 8 years, teaching them seed saving and gardening skills. For 6 years, the Seed Sanctuary also worked with Queen's Faculty of Education students who would go into the local schools to teach the kids about seed saving. So the Seed Sanctuary took its mission of education really seriously, not just saving the seeds. And they had events for the public, including Heirloom Tomato Day, which was a highly popular event in Kingston that was held annually from 1999 to 2014 and included tastings of numerous varieties of heirloom tomatoes, tours of the gardens, and workshops. So a final Heirloom Tomato Day was held in 2018 to mark the final growing season. I personally had no idea that there were so many different kinds of tomatoes before I started working here. And it was fun to try tasting them all. So outreach activities also included marking the equinoxes and solstices each year. Earth Day was also celebrated annually. All of these activities over a 20-year period ensured that awareness of the importance of seed saving has grown in the Kingston area and further afield. So the gardener and seed saver, Kate Henderson, was involved with the founding of the Kingston Area Seed Saving Initiative, known as CASSI, in 2011, and she helped develop CASSI over the next 10 years as a nonprofit whose mandate is to facilitate the development of a regional seed system. In early 2017, Kate also connected with a group of Kaneheteke Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory members who formed Ratininhayenthos in April 2017. So Ratininhayenthos is a traditional name, meaning they are the seed farmers or the people growing seed. In 2016-2017, the Sisters of Providence were beginning to develop plans for the future of their mother house property of that 30 acres. And then they knew that the land wouldn't be available for the Heirloom Seed Sanctuary gardens much longer. So they started looking for partners that they could pass on the collection and stewardship of the seeds to. They wanted to ensure the collection would continue to be a living collection and not just the seed bank. That's part of the advantage of a seed sanctuary, is that the seeds are growing out. In fall 2017, the Heirloom Seed Sanctuary and the Sisters of Providence agreed to donate the collection to Kathy and Ratininhayenthos. So 2018 was the last growing season at the Heirloom Seed Sanctuary. So it was important to Ratininhayenthos that they receive a copy of the entire seed collection, whereas Kathy took a huge number of the seeds, but not all of them. But Ratininhayenthos wanted the entire collection because they viewed that the seeds have relationships with one another, as the seeds had grown together for about 40 years by that point, and they wanted to honor and preserve that relationship. Some of the seeds were already known to the Haudenosaunee, but some were not. So it was also important to Ratininhayenthos that the gardener and seed saver, Kate Henderson, go with the seeds and help mentor the community on how to care for the seeds going forward. So for the first year, Kate worked part-time for both Kathy and Ratininhayenthos, and Kate is still working with the seeds for Ratininhayenthos. On Earth Day 2019, an emotional heirloom seed rematriation ceremony was held to symbolically give the seeds to the two receiving organizations. Part of the rematriation process was the creation of a wampum belt, a traditional Haudenosaunee belt made from shell beads. So beginning in early 2019, members of Ratininhayenthos, Kathy, and the sisters gathered several times to learn about the importance of the wampum belt. So they had a speaker come in. And then also they got together to weave the passing of the seeds wampum belt together. The wampum belt was woven out of traditional shell beads, and then copies were created out of imitation beads so that each of the partners would have a copy of the belt. The wampum belt was woven to record the three parties' shared commitment to the preservation of the seeds and the well-being of future generations. And it was important to Ratininhayenthos that all three partners contribute to the weaving of the belt. So sisters and Kathy members were able to weave the belt. And then I believe also that Ratininhayenthos took the belt to their local library in Tyendinaga, so community members could participate in the weaving. So I'll explain what this image of the wampum belt means. So it's called the passing of the seed, and it depicts two human forms with arms stretched out to the edge of the belt. So this signifies that others can join in the seed rematriation process at any time. And you'll see the line that connects the two human figures. So that's a line of seeds. And a couple of the seeds are falling between the human figures and are seen dropping into a small mound below. And that shows that the act of planting and the skills, knowledge, cosmology, and traditional songs and recipes associated with the seeds are also being passed on. So it's not just the seeds, it's also about the culture. So each year on Earth Day, the anniversary of the seed rematriation, an event is held with the three partners. But because of the pandemic, so far it's only been held on Zoom, but maybe next year they'll be able to do it in person. So in that event, they recommit themselves to the agreement they made with the wampum belt to care for the seeds and the preservation of a healthy ecosystem. So Cassie uses community gardens in Kingston to grow out their seed crops, host community events to educate the public about the importance of locally adapted open pollinated seeds, and partners with community initiatives and organizations. For example, they provide a local organization with learning resources and seeds for school gardens. And Rantinan Hayenthos was given 15 acres of land by the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte, where they run the Kentucky Seed Sanctuary and Learning Center. So the Seed Sanctuary grows out the seed phase, gives their community members a chance to reconnect with their traditional culture, and offers events, including an annual Seed to Salsa event, community work beads, and other opportunities. We think that Rantinan Hayenthos is the first Indigenous seed sanctuary in Canada, and they continue to add seeds to their living collection. So the Heirloom Seed Sanctuary of the Sisters of Providence of St. Vincent de Paul is a ministry that has come to completion, so the sisters don't do this anymore, but the seeds continue their journey in their new homes. So if you want more information about what Cassie and Rantinan Hayenthos is doing, you should contact those groups directly. And I'll just stop sharing here. And I just wanted to show you, this is the sisters' copy of the wampum bells. So it's framed and hangs in the council room here at the Mother House. Thank you.